smoking, it's a revolution. Shots to your head, it's an execution. It's being us versus the corrupt. Red dot, put a cross to your head. Let the Lord interrupt. Gun smoking, it's a revolution. Shots to your head, it's an execution.
Hey, let's go.
Let's go. Liberty Goons episode 24. Man, it never stops in the world of the Liberty Goons. We always have some shit to talk about, my guy. Man,
yeah, you think we'd run out of shit, right?
You would think so.
Man, the world just never stops.
It just doesn't fucking stop going. We're gonna start off tonight where not really where we left off last episode, but what we talked about last episode, which is a little bit of a debate that you and I had on an interview with Kamala Harris.
Before we do that, guys, Liberty Goons, this is your time right now. Make sure you drop a like, drop a comment, smash subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications for episodes just like this so you never miss a damn episode of your favorite podcasters, the Liberty fucking Goons. And now, yes, let's talk about it.
We had to get that in. We had to get that in, guys, because you need to do it.
Mm-hmm. And vote. Get out and fucking vote.
Hit that notification bell and vote.
There you go.
So you and I got in a little argument last time about how Brett Baer was going to handle this Kamala Harris interview. And I would say, correct me if I'm wrong here, buddy, I would say that you have pulled back a little bit on how you felt about it. You still don't think it was great. And I stand firm in what I said, which I thought he did a pretty darn good job.
Okay, so yes. Okay, so if the playing field was even across the board for every single thing that Kamala got on and every single thing that Trump got on, and I think what Brett Baer did was a even fill. Like he was just straight even, like as he should be with every single person that he does an interview with, right? My thing is, I will say this: I thought he was going to just, roll
Softball
over
it up.
Yeah, softball it up and just give her the red carpet. Now, did he softball some stuff? I mean, for sure. I mean, he definitely gave her more opportunity than I would have to veer around questions that she never answered. I don't think she actually answered one question that he actually asked. I know he did give a little bit of pushback, which I appreciate.
I thought it was a good bit of pushback, to be honest. Like, I obviously you and I talked about it like directly afterwards, and you can only push back so much because you only have so much time. So
that's true.
I don't think there was a single question that he didn't push back on. At least initially,
True. Yes, but I also think that, okay, so in case you guys don't know, Kamala Harris showed up fucking 17 minutes late. They gave him 25 minutes originally, then they turned it to 20 minutes, and then by the time the 20 minutes was over with and he was still trying to ask questions, he was hearing in his ear set and watching people be like, get her the fuck off there. 4 of her handlers were trying to get them out of the interview. So, yes, he didn't have a whole lot of time. He pushed back. There were certain things that I wish that he would have said to make your regular viewer understand. But she fucking melted down. He, to be honest with you, To be honest with you, he didn't even. I thought he asked good questions. She did refuse to answer them. He did push back here and there for sure. There's no doubt about it. Like, I give him kudos for that, because I honestly, I'll be the first to say it, I didn't think he was going to push back at all. But she melted down so bad. She was trying to talk over him the whole entire time. She refused to answer the question. All it was, well, Orange Man's bad. Orange Man's bad. Well, Trump's bad. Trump's bad. And it's like, okay, like there was a question on there, you know, hey, America thinks that 79% of America feels like that we're headed down the wrong direction. And then she's like, "Well, you know what I'm about to say. Well, Trump's been part of this place for 10 years. He's been running for 10 years." And it's like, yeah, but you're the one that's been in office for the past 3.5 years, and they're saying that it's headed down the wrong direction now, right now. This is present day, and all she could do was just say, well, Trump's been around, and it's like, and he's like, you know what I mean, and then
That was the best part when she said,
and,
you know what I'm saying," and he goes,
and he,
"Actually,
I,
no, I don't know what you're saying."
I don't know what you're saying, which I mean, like, I didn't know what the fuck she was saying either. I don't think
Nobody knew what she was saying.
anybody did. But there was lots of shit, dude. Like, okay, this is the one thing that I always talk about with every single person. So I like the fact that he was like, "Well, hey, you moved 90 presidential executive orders, and that's the reason why we started getting flooded in." And then she's like, "Well, we had a plan. Well, we had a plan." And he goes, and she started screaming over him. I don't know if
Hmm.
people actually heard what he said, but he said, "You controlled the Senate and you control Congress your first 2 years in office, and they never brought it up for a
Right, but too
vote."
bad she was talking during that whole thing, so it was hard to hear what he was
It
saying
was it
there.
was hard it was hard to hear. So I don't think your average person actually picked up on what he was saying. Now, the other thing is, I don't think what a lot of people heard him say either. He goes, "Well, this is an asylum bill. This
Right.
isn't a this isn't stop illegals from coming in. You want to bring more people to allow more people
Yep.
in the country."
Yep.
Which is exactly what he was saying, when they brought up Bill Clinton, because Bill Clinton said, "Well, this would have never happened if these people would have been vetted." Yeah, that's exactly what every single conservative has been saying for the past 4 years, has
She
been saying, these people aren't vetted. You're allowing them to come in because you remove 90 executive orders. You never had a plan other than asylum, which is just let fucking everybody come in that wants asylum. Like,
well, she couldn't
you're
even
not vetting anybody.
she couldn't even say she was sorry to the parents that have lost kids because of these
Her removing the
illegal
90.
immigrants.
Well, yeah, well, she said, "I feel bad for them. I feel sorry for the mother," but
But
she
she
never
didn't
she
apologize.
never she never apologized for pulling the executive orders, which is exactly the video that Brett Bear showed, saying, "Hey, this is what we did. This is what you guys did, and this is what this woman's saying."
Mhm.
And instead of her, she still just deflected, and then she started bringing up about this bill that happened, 9 months ago or whatever it was. The what they keep calling the Senate Republican bill, which actually wasn't. It was one real Republican in it, or
And
one
5 rhinos.
and five rhinos, and then a bunch of Democrats that came up with this bill. And I like that Brett Baer said that, but I don't think a lot of people heard this either. But that's not a border bill. That's allowing 1.8 million people in a year. And in fact, 6 Democrats actually voted against it, and all the Republicans voted against
When he
it
put that
on the
list
opposite
up,
side.
and there's some hardcore lefty Dems on that
Yes.
list. I mean, Cory
Yes.
Bush was on that list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
and nobody would have, they would have never voted that in Congress, because it allows 1.8 million. We need to put that big on here. 1.8 million illegals in with their border bill that they wanted to have, which isn't a border bill, it's an asylum bill. Big difference. You're allowing people in versus we're stopping people from coming in. There's a massive, massive difference. But this is what pisses me off, because 7 months before that, ding, 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 when Congress finally became, the conservatives finally won by a very slim majority, they voted in HR 2. The Senate refused to pick up that bill,
Yep.
which would have allowed no illegals to come in. The strictest border bill that America's ever seen. Hey, no, you ain't entering America, which is exactly the bill that we needed. And instead, we have tons of people die because Kamala Harris has blood on her hands, and it's because they removed the 90 executive orders. They said that
The
there was
biggest
no
one
problem
being
with
the
the
remain in
border.
Mexico.
Yes, but also they told us for 2.5 years that there was no issue at the border, while thousands of people were either getting raped or murdered or children stolen. There's 300,000 kids that they don't even know where they are. We know for a fact that there was over 50,000 kids that got put in, for sure 100% got put into sex trafficking or uh a workforce of labor, slave labor in America. So,
They're going to
and,
end up in that lithium mine you were talking about.
yeah, Kamala Harris, the one that's her husband, the one that he's invested into. So, I mean, this is insane. Like, I thought Brett Baer didn't have to really do
No,
anything.
she did it to herself.
But the crazy part is that the Democrats were like, "Oh, she did so good. She answered you answered all the questions, Joe. You answered all the questions. Come on, you didn't answer shit. You
No.
didn't. You never directly answered any of the questions. All you did was want to blame Republicans. You're the one in office. You had control of the Senate and you had control of Congress for 2 fucking years, and you are the reason why people have died, while women have been raped, while kids have been sold into sex trafficking, and there's kids that are in slavery now, and not to mention I think it's like over 100,000 people that died last year from fentanyl poisoning because of you, Kamala.
Yep. They just side note, when you're talking about fentanyl, they just recovered over $4 million worth of fentanyl, enough to kill the entire city of LA. Like it's crazy. The only thing where Brett did mess up is he had the wrong videotape of Donald Trump. That was kind of a major fuck up there. But I thought he did good pushing back. Unfortunately, he had to push back on everything because she just wouldn't say anything. And the I think the couple things that pissed me off the most was when he was asking her about sex change surgery, gender reaffirming surgery for prisoners, and she just said, "Well, I'll follow the law." But that wasn't the question that he asked. He said, "Are you still going to advocate, for these
For it.
things?"
Are you going to advocate to implement this law?
Right. And then she went on this rant about how Donald Trump had the same policy and stuff. And Brett Baer said, "Yeah, but it was never done under his
Yeah, it was.
administration. I bet you Trump didn't even know that was. Do you know how many policies there are? Do you think Donald Trump went and asked, 'Hey guys, do we have a gender reaffirming surgery policy in our federal prison system?' Like, no, because nobody even thought about that shit."
Yeah, but it wasn't a federal policy. It's a policy that they had came up with in California. It wasn't a federal policy. It wasn't across the board. It was done to specific states.
Well, they
Because
were
I read,
well, she was talking about a federal law.
yeah, but that's not the case though,
Federal
because
policy, I should say.
there's specific states that allow that for prisons. Yes, prisons are federally ran. I get that. I understand how she was trying to manipulate the conversation.
Yes.
But it's not the case for every single state. Yes, the state is ran by the federal government. These state penitentiaries are. However, it's not the same in every single state. Just like we have the death penalty, another state might not have the death penalty. It's the same thing. It's all federal though at the end of the day. So
Yeah. So, I mean, I thought for her, it was an absolute disaster. Um, at the end of the day, I think Brett Baer did what he could do in that amount of time, and with the un unwildly freaking answers that she was giving. I mean, she just wasn't even on topic at all. And like, it's how do you nail somebody down for that? I don't know. I don't know.
well, I also want to say this though, back to that question, because she never said that she advocated, right? Well, Trump's already said there's no fucking way in hell that I'm ever advocating for anything like this. His
Right.
whole team came out and said, "Hell to the fuck no, we don't agree with this, and we don't think tax dollars should be spent on this."
Right.
So he answered the question. She never answered the question. She just said that she would be follow the law, and then when it came to the what was the question that they said that, well,
She said it
Tim
again, and
Wall.
I forget what it was.
Well, it was with Minnesota, because Minnesota implemented these laws because they wrote them into law
Right.
in
So
Minnesota, and he goes, "Well, do you agree with that?"
right.
And then she goes, "Well, I follow the law," and it's
Right.
like, yeah, but you're the one making the law.
Yep. Yep.
Like it's like, yeah, it's like, well, yeah, well, if me and John want to make up the laws, well, then we don't believe that we should pay taxes and that every single home should have to own a machine gun.
Right. I'm still going to advocate for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to advocate for that regardless.
Right.
But I'm just saying, if that's the case, then well, that's law. So California, yeah, you're fucked, because now you're going to have to do that. I mean, it's just wild. Like, the shit's just so off topic, and that's what I'm just trying to get to a point of, just like, you're not answering the question. You're coming up with radical ideas, but then when you get pinned down for them, then you sidestep the question because you're in a different audience. It's
Mhm.
like when she has a Hispanic accent, or she has an Irish accent, or she wants to pretend like she's, in the hood somewhere, and she wants to have a ghetto accent, or she wants to pretend like she's uppity and rich, and wants to represent, upper white, class, and then she talks like she's, oh yes, please, please, please. I mean,
Was she acting like she wanted to be unhinged in this one?
dude, but that's what I'm saying though, because she's never been pushed back on, and she just fucking melted,
She melted.
absolute meltdown.
I mean, she was angry. The stills from that are pretty intense because she was angry. um and the next piece of news has to do with Kamala as well. It appears Joe Biden might be sabotaging her run here. So, Don, you sent me a video. I believe it was Outnumbered on Fox with Kayleigh McEnany, where they kind of dove deep into some of the antics that Biden has been doing. He held a impromptu press conference like right before she was about to go on stage for one of her rallies. Obviously he wore the Trump hat. We talked about that just recently, and there's been it's been widely reported right now that the two camps aren't getting along, the Biden White House and the Kamala
well
campaign
she
team.
well she went off on DeSantis, and then
Mm-hmm.
Biden goes, no, that's not true at all. I've already talked to DeSantis, and DeSantis is doing everything that he possibly can. I asked him if there was anything that he needs. Me and him have had a very good conversations, and we've had great communication.
Mm-hmm.
But why do you think you're not the president? Yes, you've been running this country for 3.5 years, but like, there's still a chain of command. So he's
And
just
you ain't
proving
in
a
it.
point. He's proving a point. Just because you've been running the country doesn't mean that you're actually the president. Instead, I'm going to actually have chain of command and talk to the president of the
Mm-hmm.
United States.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I like Joe Biden or not, I mean, that's the proper way to do things.
Yep, exactly. And then kind of on a side note to this, the New York Post hired a lip reader that was analyzing a video that was taken of Joe Biden and Barack Obama having a conversation at I believe Ethel Kennedy,
Mhm.
at her funeral. And this lip reader, I guess this guy's experienced lip reader. He's been on many news stations. He's been in court before, and he's, I think, naturally deaf, so he understands what lips are saying. Um, he he said that during this conversation, Joe Biden looks at Barack Obama and says, I'm stronger than her. And Barack replies something to the effect of, yeah, I know you are. And they both make a comment on, we just have to buy time. We just
Yeah.
have to wait. What that means,
Well, there's a whole lot of shit that it can mean because I think that the Democrats are going to play very, very dirty, and everything that they blame Republicans for are exactly what they do. They said, oh, well, Trump's going to have lawfare and go after Democrats, but that's exactly what all the Democrats have done. They've done that to all the Republicans.
well, we talked
I,
about it before. If you want to know what the Democrats are going to do, just look at what they're saying that Trump and the Republicans are doing.
Yeah, I mean, so in case people don't know this, he filed his court case, his New York case, up to what is it called? Basically, to get it overturned.
The Court of
What is that?
Appeals.
The Court of Appeals. Well, so you had all these Democrat, lawyers that are with the government, going against Trump or whatnot. And the Court of Appeals basically was like, at the end of it, they're like, has the bank said that they paid him back plus interest. The bank said that he's had something like 90 loans and have paid them all back plus interest. The bank said that in no form or shape has Donald Trump ever did anything wrong to this bank. Not to mention, he goes, there's no way for you to be able to estimate what Donald Trump's house is worth. And he goes, so tell me what he did wrong. And they couldn't. They couldn't say anything to him. By the end of the whole entire thing, they were the judges were literally coming out and saying, "Brother, like I'm like you're lucky I don't sanction you." And then by the time it was all said and done, the lawyers were begging not to be sanctioned. That's how crazy this is. That's how much insane lawfare. Not to mention, what's the guy's name from New York that brought the case?
Bragg.
Not Alvin Bragg, the other guy, the white dude.
That's the guy in DC or
That yeah.
Florida.
So
Smith.
yes, yeah. So that guy also brought up a case again after everything has been said and done. After what is it? The state whoever the attorney general basically was like, no, we're throwing this case out, and then brought the case back up again 2 weeks before the election. It's like this whole thing is fucking lawfare.
Well, the one in Florida, the judge threw out
Exactly.
after the Supreme Court gave their
and then
immunity decision.
and then they tried, and then that guy tried to
It's
make
trying it again. Yep.
trying to make an appeal all over again, and it's like,
Yeah.
dude, you guys have nothing on Donald Trump. Like, he was wrongfully convicted. You convicted him in front of a bunch of Democrats. These are not peers of his people. These aren't. I'm sorry, but nowhere in Manhattan are you going to find people that are justly outside of the political realm that just don't care enough to say, like, well, yeah, I truly think that this was wrong, or I truly think this was right. No, no, no. These are all political bot people that, Manhattan, New York is extremely Democrat. It's like 95. I think it's the most Democrat, part of a city that are in the whole entire United States. I think it's even more Democrat than fucking LA is, New York City.
Speaking of New York City and Manhattan, it took me 2 hours to get from Queens to Newark today. New York City is a fucking disaster. But yes, I think Trump at the end of this has a case for malicious prosecution. I think
If he
does.
wins, he just needs to just go after it all, because
Yep.
if not, it's setting
A bad precedent.
it's setting a bad precedent to where now that now they can get away with it, and they know they can every single time.
Yep.
And we can't have that in America. We just can't. We can't have lawfare in America because, Well, we're going to talk about it
Mm-hmm.
here pretty soon.
Yep.
But that just means that all things that may be can come over after every single citizen that they just don't agree with.
Yep.
So,
Exactly. And then, so to round off our news update, this kind of goes almost right in line with it. Is
mhm,
there's been a policy change this week that allows the use of deadly force by our military against United States citizens.
citizens.
Um, if there is a life or death situation, which guess who decides if there's a life or death situation? The Secretary of Defense, who's
Mhm.
appointed by who? The
The
President of
Democrat.
the United States,
Mhm.
aka the Democrats, right now.
Which is unlawful because they made this law in 1913 where that was never allowed to happen.
Right. This
There's a
policy
there
is unlawful.
It's unlawful what they're doing. But it's also it's based on their judgment, and it's clearly defined that it's based on their judgment, and in there it says we may do this. If we can't get a hold of the president, we may do this. We have the ability to do this. We can do whatever. Basically, what they're telling you is hey, we can do whatever we want. We don't have to go ask for a judge to do this. We don't have to ask the president of the United States this. We don't have
Yep.
to go ask Congress this.
We, as
We
the Department of Defense, we can just do it.
we can just do it. What if they feel like they keep saying if we feel like there's a threat, if we feel all this feeling bullshit that Democrats always throw out, well then we can just go kill people,
Yep.
which is insanity. It's absolutely insane.
It
And
is.
that's exactly what they keep that's exactly what Kamala Harris was blaming Donald Trump of, and that's the exact same thing that they just implemented, and they
Yes.
bypassed Congress with it.
Yes. 100%. And there's a lot of reasons that we won't even get into. There's a lot of reasons that we have this separation. One of them, just from my experience, personal experience in the military, is the goodwill of the people. When I was walking around in uniform, people weren't scared of me, right? Like why would they be scared of me? They knew that I wasn't going to do anything to them. I couldn't do anything to them. So if they saw a bunch of military people walking around, the most we ever got was a thank you. It was never this fear. Like some people have a fear when police officers are walking around, right? I'm not saying it's
Mhm.
just, but they do because they know that that person can do something to them. We don't
Yes.
have that with our military. Didn't have
Yes.
that with our military.
That's
Um,
what that's what communist countries have.
when people are
That's what
afraid of the military.
dictatorships have.
The Nazis. The Nazis were the military in Germany.
Yes, which served as the overall rulers, the police force. You know,
Yes. Yes, exactly. Exactly. And it sets this really, no pun intended, but deadly precedent, that our country has fought very hard to keep separated, our civilian law enforcement from our military power. And
mhm.
it's really, really sad. Um, and unfortunately, just because of the way our military is going, I'm not so sure that they all have the ability to use proper judgment either. They're order followers. So if the general says we going out and doing this, well, guess what? They're going out and doing it. Um,
Yeah, for
that's
for for a fact, and they've changed the military so much. I mean, we've talked about this. We still
hmm
have friends that serve in the military. That the people they basically kicked out, or they're trying to kick out all the conservatives, or they've pushed out conservatives to now where you have weird transgenders that are in the military. You have all these like woke, like super woke military people that are in there. And guess what? If they get the orders to kill, they are jumping up and down and for joy to kill Americans.
did you speaking of the woke military, did you see that We're That Platoon video with it was like a gay recruit. They're in their like army workout
Oh
gear.
yes, yes.
We're that platoon. What platoon? That platoon. That was fucking horrendous. Like
Yeah, bro.
horrendous.
Bro, but here's the thing that I keep, I want people to know this. Look, I don't, I don't want anybody to die. Period. At all.
No.
At all. We don't believe in violence like that. We believed in controlled violence because as a man, you have to have controlled violence. And what I
Mhm.
mean by controlled violence is you are not seeking violence into the world, into the public. But if violence comes to you, you better be able to give violence back because you're not winning by giving up your rights. You're not giving up your freedom of speech, giving up your gun rights. Uh, you're not winning that.
No.
These people are radicals. Okay, so I'm not condoning violence, but every man, I think that Joe Rogan said something best. Like every man should be just a violent animal and then learn how to control it.
Hmm.
You know, I mean that's where the whole saying, it's better to be, is it better to be what like the whole gardener, what's his, what, how does he word that? It's better to be a warrior and a gardener than a gardener in a war. I mean,
Right.
yeah, that's essentially what that's stating,
Yeah.
right? Like, and we as American citizens, we can't allow that to happen. And there's so many ex-military people that still here. Okay, we all know them, and if that happens, they are asking for a civil war. And I'll be honest with you, I think that that's what they want. I think that they want to create some type of chaos, whether they kill Donald Trump, whether the Senate refuses to like bring him in as the president of the United States,
Hmm.
and they try to do some crazy coup shit, even if he wins. Um, I think that's exactly what they want. And then they can kill people off and then say, oh, we blame the Republicans. And it's a tough situation to be a conservative because we have to walk a fine line where they don't have to. They can do whatever they want. They
Yep.
have the media is the most powerful thing in this entire world, and they own all the media. Everybody talks about Fox, Fox, Fox. Fox isn't even a conservative. Like, yes, they have some conservative commentators, but it's a very independent, neutral, very, very neutral news site. I don't even like watching it because there's so many left-wing radicals that are on there. Um, they own all of it. I mean, CNN, MSNBC, whatever you name it, C-SPAN, they're all extremely far left wing and bought in, and that's what you see on
Yep.
social media,
And
even Facebook,
they will they will sow that narrative.
Yeah,
If that's the narrative that they need sown, is that this is the right thing to do by, like you said, not seating Donald Trump as the president or using military force on civilians, whatever it is, those news stations that you just said right there are going to be the purveyors of positive information about it.
even the news station that you're watching this on, the ABC Group, aka Google, donated $30 million to the Kamala campaign. Facebook, Instagram, I think donated something like $22 million. That's why if you post something negative, which I have, and using their own words, literally just showing a video of what they're saying, then my shit gets removed. Or my view count goes down. They suppress all of our information. They control the media. That's why we have to walk on light feet. But let me tell you, we have to win. This is why it's so important to go out and to vote. These people want to kill you. And I'm just going to be point blank with it. Clearly, if they didn't want to kill you, they wouldn't be implementing this law with the military
Yep.
because you are the enemy to them.
Agreed.
That's why they want to take your guns. That's why they want to take your freedom of speech.
Yep.
And this is all things that they've said. And yes, they say, well, we don't want to take your guns, but we believe in a mandatory buyback. That's taking your
That's what it
guns,
is.
people. That's what that means. You fucking imbeciles that don't understand that.
And we're gonna get into a couple of these things here with a big segment tonight. Before we do though, want to give a shout out to the title sponsor of the Liberty Goons, Two-Way Watch Company. They're delivering fashionable and practical watches that embody the three pillars of their company: God, freedom, this beloved motherfucking country. Go grab your watches at twowaywatchcompany.com. Follow them over on IG, Two-Way Watches. They're our friends. They're our buddies. Don't forget to DM them to tell them to not be pussies and come on our election night coverage.
I'm sure they're gonna love that.
But we love them anyway. They just had prior engagements. So tonight we're going to be talking about something that we touched on a little bit 2 episodes ago, Don, which is in the survival nature of things. So we're going to have a conversation on the end of the world as we know it and what that actually means. Because I think a lot of people, and this is going to kind of round up kind of some of the things that you were just talking about, we were just talking about. A lot of people look at people like us and they say, oh my God, you're fear mongering, talking about the end of the world. The end of the world as we know it is labeled like that as we know it. We're not talking about an asteroid hitting Earth and destroying it, or we're not talking about the return of Jesus Christ. We're not talking about like the total annihilation of the world here. We're talking about the end of the world as we know it. The end of American domination, the end of the niceties in life, the end of having a power grid, the end of a food supply chain. All of those things that can come from
Western
various,
culture.
Western culture, and it can happen from various things. One of the things that you were just talking about, Don, obviously is some type of coup or overthrow of the government. You've got a financial system collapse. We were talking about EMPs on that episode as well. EMPs can come in many different ways, just as standalone EMPs or from a nuclear explosion, which God freaking knows we're probably as close as we've been since the Cold War to a nuclear detonation. I mean, real close. The leader of Hamas was just killed today. There's going to be some retaliation for that. All the way to stuff that we can't control, like solar flares, like natural disasters. All these things can cause, civil unrest, supply chain interruptions. What if China takes down our power grid, or the Russians? You were just talking to me the other day about that interview with the Russian from like the 80s, where he's talking about we are already in your society. We are just waiting. We're just
Yeah,
waiting.
so basically that whole thing. I wish I could remember the guy's name. We'll post what we'll do is actually we'll put the link down here.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you. But essentially, what this guy is talking about, and this is like late 70s, maybe early 80s. And he's like we've already embodied into the system, and basically what their whole goal is to get into the education system, change the mind of people, and then once they can do that, then there has to be a demoralization period. Okay, well, we've already had that. COVID, that's a prime example of that. And once that happens, even if you show the person the truth to their face, they will never believe it. Right? That's prime example. Every single thing that the Democrats do right now. Oh yeah, that's another thing too. Breaking up the homes, homosexuality, transgenderism. I mean, these are all things that were talked about forever ago.
Yeah.
Okay,
Ruining the nuclear family.
ruining the nuclear family. These are all things that this Russian spy was talking about in America that fled Russia in the late 70s or early 80s was already talking about this. He was like, it's already been done. He's like,
Yep.
this is it's over with. We've already implemented everything that we needed to do. We've been doing it for the past 20 years. And all it takes is 20 years is to change the society. And once you've done that, there's no turning back. It's like literally prime example, that whole interview with Kamala Harris, and then everybody is like, "Oh, she did awesome. She answered every single question and kicked Brett Baer's ass." She didn't answer one question. If you have a actual, if you are thinking with a straight mind, and look, we've said bad things about Donald Trump on here, like damn, like he fumbled this. We're realists, okay? But when the vast majority of society, or when a section of society can no longer tell what reality is, it's over with.
Yep. Because
So,
then that's where the real propaganda wars come in. And we're already
yes.
seeing that. We're already seeing some of prominent people get caught up in Russian associations and Chinese associations, and people are coming out in defense of them.
Yeah,
And
I mean, look at Adams
yep,
from New York. Look at what's the chick's name from New York?
well,
Uh,
Hochul's assist, yeah,
Hochul's assistant, which she never threw that chick underneath the bus. You can look at
swallow good.
Swallow Good, Swallow Well from Chinese spies. You can look at all the money that's been implemented from foreign countries
Tim
that are
Walls.
Tim Walls from China, with all the China shit going on. Clearly, if you are a sane human being, you know, look, Donald Trump is not taking money for political favors from anybody on this entire planet when it comes to a foreign country. Donald Trump is a multi-billionaire and has the vast majority of the money that he's getting is coming from 10, 15, $20 people that are middle class Americans that are sending him money. That is, I think I saw he's only gotten $340 million in the past like whatever couple of months, where Kamala Harris is
A
like
billion.
broke all records at 1 billion. Yeah, because she's getting money from outside sources of this country to implement laws. And you think that they're not going to implement those laws because look, whoever has the bag at the end of the day has the power to, run social media, has the money for ads, has the money for campaigns, has the money for door knockers. I mean, it's crazy to me to think that we've just lost reality as a society, and we have, and we're this is the last chance. Like I truly think, like Elon said, if we don't win this, now you got 20 million illegal immigrants that are in this country. It's over with. We'll never have another. We'll never have a true another election again. Not that we won't have votes, we will, but it will be a democracy and not a constitutional republic, because that's what Democrats also want to do is they want to get rid of the electoral vote, the electoral college. That way that big cities
Will control
can
everything.
will control everything, which is exactly what happens in dictatorships.
Yep.
We're not a democracy for a reason. We're a constitutional republic because we have the Bill of Rights and we have an electoral college that gives everybody a seat at the table. That's the difference.
Yep. And so, whether it's what we're talking about now, which is like a foreign invasion of our mindsets and all that kind of stuff, or whether it's some of those other scenarios, um, let's run through some of the key things that we think uh, people need to do, and everything from simplistic things to maybe more advanced setups. One of the cool things we did, I think it was like somewhere in episodes 1 through 5, I can't remember. Do you remember what episode it was when we talked about if we only could have two guns at the end of times? I forget. It was an
Yeah,
early episode.
it was super early episodes.
So we're not going to start there. We'll go down that road, but let's just start off with like some of the basics. And we started touching on these a little bit 2 episodes ago. But like, what's your number one thing? If you said, hey, shit could come down heavy and hot, no matter what that shit is. Where should people start?
The vast majority of the public,
Yeah. Where should
two
people
months of
start?
2 months of food, 2 months of water.
Yeah.
Because don't think that you're a gunslinger, you're going to get yourself killed.
Yep. 2 months of food, 2 months of water. I would agree. I would even stretch it out for most people to 3, maybe even 4 months. If we have a system wide breakdown of the power grid, I don't think people really understand what that means. That means your gas pumps aren't working, which means delivery trucks aren't moving food, which means
Mm-hmm.
the water that comes into your house, unless you have a well with a hand pump on it, it's not working. Your sewer system isn't working.
Yeah.
All of these things, your mass communication systems, the internet's no longer working.
I'll give you a prime example of this because my dad just went through Hurricane Milton, and my dad did not have electricity for like 6 days.
Hmm.
My dad bought 25 gallons of gas. I know you guys think that that's a crazy amount of gas. Let me tell you this. My dad was out of gas in 4 fucking days because he was running a generator trying
Yep.
to keep things on because his house was like he lives in a cabin, so everything was smoldering inside the house, and he was just running a little tiny fan, and then whatever other little appliance that he hooked up, the refrigerator, trying to ice all that shit. But he almost ran out of that in 4 days.
And that's
So,
25 gallons.
and that's 25 gallons of gas.
Yep.
You know, uh, my dad. Finally, what the reason why the power company came for? Because my dad said he was so hot. And Dad, if you're watching this, my apologies for putting you on blast. But he walked out in his fucking boxers with his ass fucking sweating, holding up a big ass sign and says, "Please fucking stop. My power does not work." And he held this big ass sign out there while he's fucking smoking a cigarette. And within an hour of him sitting out there in his fucking lawn chair, finally somebody rolled through and said, "Hey, bud, your power don't work." He's like, "Bro," he's like, yes, my power doesn't fucking work." And the weird part about it is only 3 houses didn't have power. The other side of the street all had power. So
Wow.
they never came. So just small things like that.
Because your food's going to be gone.
Exactly.
Whatever your regular
Exactly.
groceries are that you have in the refrigerator or in the freezer. Single guys like me, I eat unfortunately like a lot of frozen foods and stuff like that. Even my vegetables I buy frozen. And so, which by the way is a better way to buy your vegetables is frozen. Um, they are flash frozen, which
Keeps the
keeps the
nutrients.
nutrients in.
Yeah.
Whereas your fresh vegetables, if you live in Arizona, came from somewhere else. um, but neither here nor there on that part. But you're going to lose all your food, and
Hmm.
if the power grid's down, your water's not going to be pouring. So if you don't have a way to maintain yourself with food and water for an extended period of time, that's why we're saying 2, 3, 4 months. um, you're in serious trouble. All analysts say that most of the population won't make it past 90 days in the
If there's
event of a
EMP,
yeah, an
right?
EMP or some sort of disaster like this, or civil unrest or whatever it may be. That's because people don't have the food or water to last them 90 days.
Yeah.
Um,
And I get it. It's expensive, dude. We live in Kamala's world. Inflation's fucking crazy. But look, there's places out there, me and look, I mean, get a membership to Costco. I fucking hate going into Costco. I'll be the first to tell you, I'm a gas station guy. I like to pop in and pop out of fucking places.
mhm.
I mean, that's just how I am. Like, I don't like sitting around waiting on anything. I'm an impatient motherfucker. But we started buying just the little things of food, and we just started putting them aside. I mean, You start off slow. Nobody's telling you to, hey, tomorrow go dump $10,000 on survival gear. Like if you do that, like, you're not even going to understand what you're doing in the first place. So like understand what your necessities are for first. Make a checklist. Hey, could I survive without this? Do I need this to survive? And then just walk yourself through it. Don't think me and John's talked about this too. You know, prime example, like I said, my dad earlier, 25 gallons of gas. I would, in my personal opinion, I'd be like, 25 gallons of gas is a shit ton. Well, but my dad, when he started running out of gas, he tried to go to the gas station. Guess what?
Gas station didn't have power
Gas station didn't have power. It couldn't get gas. So, and then
because
the
the
whole
pumps
entire,
at gas stations are run by electricity.
yes. And here's the crazy part. All the food's already been taken. So if my dad didn't have food, then he'd have been starving for fucking 5 days.
Right.
But these
That's
are the things. These are
that's where
things
you
that people
start.
don't think about.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's where we start.
yeah.
Food and water 100% is where you start. And
Hmm.
then we can start breaking down into some of the things that are going to help you survive outside of keeping your body nourished. I think we'll talk about shelter. Obviously, shelter is one of those things that you absolutely need to have, but I think it goes into the latter part of this conversation. You and I talked about it a little bit on that episode with the bug in, bug out scenario, but we'll hold that off. The next part is, what do I need to sustain my life? And that comes from, like, Don, you're a diabetic.
I was gonna mention this too, so I'm glad you brought it up.
So, medicines. If
Mm,
you don't have a supply of life-saving medicines, if you take those sorts of things, you will be dead. You will be
yeah,
dead. Like,
I
no doubt about it.
I don't want to tell you guys what I do for a living, but I will say this just so you guys understand it. Look, every single one of you can go to your doctor and tell them, hey, I need a little bit more this month.
Yep.
I'm using a little bit more than what I typically do, right? Your doctor is not going to tell you no. Start just moving supplies and don't miss out on getting your I know most of you guys are on tight budgets, it's insurance. Look, America's on a tight budget. I get it. And your insurance only gives you so much, whether it's a month or 3 months. That's typically how insurance is ran when you're picking stuff up at a pharmacy. Whether it's 1 month or 90 days, whatever the case is, whatever you do, ask for a little bit more and start putting it aside, because you will die without medication if it's a necessity to your life.
Yep.
I urge all of you to make an appointment with your physicians and do that. There's all types of strong people out there. We're not saying like you're a weak individual because you're stacking up on extra medicine. It's the exact opposite of that, dude. There's people out there's bodybuilders out there that have asthma, diabetes, other health issues. You
One
name it.
one of the biggest ones that people don't think about is SSRIs.
Hmm.
Um, a large percentage of the American population, especially after some things that the COVID vaccine did to people, caused anxiety, caused
Yep.
depression, and being locked away in their homes caused depression. And they're taking these neuro inhibitors, and it is disastrous to come off those medications cold turkey. So
Yep.
if you only have a 30-day supply of your Prozac or whatever it is, sertraline, um, you are going to go through hell, and you're going to be going through hell in the worst possible time, because
Yep.
you're not gonna want to be holed up, sweating, headaches, the whole 9 yards, while you're trying to also survive and protect yourself or protect your family. So if you don't have these medications saved up, whether it be for a actual illness or medical condition like Don's talking about, or a mental condition, Like I'm
Mm,
talking about, if you don't have them, you're in trouble. The
yeah.
other side of that is life-saving medications. Now, if you want to go over to a Patriot Ranch, I did a review on a company called Duration Health. Duration Health packages up a kit of life-saving medications. It's a huge supply. They have different size kits. They have like just a little one, but then they have like a big one, which is the one that I reviewed. And this thing has penicillin, it has EpiPens, it has Narcan, it has azithromycin, it has doxycycline. It has all of these things inside of it that are life-saving medications for anything that may transpire. Um, Even things from the common cold to a drug overdose,
Hmm.
all in this one kit. Now, I will say this is one of those things Don and I talked about, cheap or not cheap. These things aren't cheap, but if you have one of those kits, you are you are well set up. Like you are well set up for you and your family with one of those kits. But if
And I
if
think that's the bigger thing too. I know we're talking about you as a person, but like think about this. Like if you have a kid or your grandmother or your wife has an illness, like these are things that you should be thinking about for your family.
Yep,
Not just yourself, but your family, the people that are around you. Because as a man, it is your responsibility to take care of these people.
yep,
And you can't do that if you don't have the proper necessities in order to do it.
yep. And you're gonna see as we, walk through this, as we talk through all of these topics, um, planning is a key implementation for all of them. We've been through food and water and medicines so far, and what we've talked about is planning ahead for these things. You have to have that plan, which brings me to, our fourth thing, and it's something that Don and I were just talking about an hour or so ago: communication. Um,
Hmm.
Communication between yourself, your family, your friends, your survival community. Don, you talked about that on the last episode. Not trying to be a
Hmm.
soldier of one, but whether it's your neighbors or friends down the road or whatever it is, having that community. Well, the only way that community can stay together is to have communication with each other. Um, when the power goes down, the cell tower doesn't work. You're not going to be able to pick up your cell phone and call your wife at work. You're not going to be able to go call your kid's school to find out if they're okay. You're not going to be able to call your mother in the hospital. None of that's going to work, and you're probably not going to be able to drive there either if you didn't prep and don't have gas saved up. So communication is super key. And what your and I's conversation earlier was about, is using kind of different forms of communication. I personally, and this is my thing, and I'm sure certain preppers will teach you kind of um, a singular way that they prefer something like this. I say use all of the methods that you can have available to you. One of them, which Don and I was talking about, was ham radio, VHF, UHF, ham radio signatures. Look, yes, I get it is illegal without a license to use that equipment right now. At the end of the world as we know it, nobody gives a
Nobody,
fuck.
yeah, nobody gives a shit. What are they going to do? Come track you down?
Right. Like no. So have that available. The next biggest one I think is GMRS. GMRS is a widely accepted communication standard, and it can also be programmed into. We'll just throw it out there. The one we were talking about earlier, Don, which is something simple and cheap, is a Baofeng UV5R.
Yep.
I know the one you were looking at was 1995.
Yeah,
Super
today.
cheap,
Super cheap.
super cheap. You can program GMRS frequencies into your Baofeng UV5R. I have one of those, and I also have a separate GMRS radio. And in my truck, I keep a CB radio. I'm not one of the guys that keeps it on all the time. I'm not like listening to truckers going down the road. But you know what I actually do? It does serve another purpose. Whenever I'm on the freeway and there happens to be an accident or something, I turn it on because all the truckers are talking to each other about which lane to get into. And the
Mhm.
ones that are up ahead, they'll say, hey, the accident's on the left. It's blocking the left lane. Make sure you get over to the right or whatever it is. So I turn that thing on every single time I'm stuck in traffic to hear what truckers are saying.
Yep.
But also, it's a very, very common frequency for people to use.
Yep.
People are generally using channels 9 and 9 and 19 on CB radios. GMRS, like I said, I highly encourage you to have that type of a radio. Me and my family, as I was telling you earlier, Don, we have a certain channel that all of our GMRS radios are set to, so that if we need to communicate with one another, we know that we're going to be on that channel.
Yep.
Communication is super, super important. Kind of a side note to that is something that you and I talked about last time about this too, is having a Faraday bag. Because in the case of an EMP, you want to be able to use that radio. If your radio is just sitting out, high probability that thing's not going to work for an
Yep.
EMP. So buy a small Faraday bag. The company I partner with is Off Grid. They make incredible stuff. Throw that radio in there. Throw a backup cell phone in there, an old cell phone you have or something like that.
Send me one off grid.
I keep one. You can actually see I have a radio on my kit right here. I keep one in my truck. I keep one on there, and I have one in a Faraday bag.
And his family's got it.
And my family all has them. They have them in their vehicles and they have them at home. Every person in my family has it. So we're going to be able to communicate with each other. If you do not have a plan to communicate with your friends, families, or survival partners, you're going to be in for a world of hurt. So communication is number 4. So we've got food, water, medicine, communication. The next thing that kind of falls in here is just general supplies. And this is where you could probably listen to 100 of people like Don and I that are going to tell you a million different things, right? They're going to, if we were talking about Canadian Prepper and Community Prepper and Such and all these guys, they're going to tell you a bunch of different things.
They're way more advanced than we are on it. We're just trying to tell you, hey man, these are basic things that you should really think about.
Right. I have a bag that I keep in my truck. It's my quote unquote get home bag. So that if I get caught during one of these things while I'm out on the road or away from home, what I have in that bag is intended to get me home to where I have a majority of my gear.
Mm-hmm.
It's not to help me survive for an extended period of time. It's not so that I can get out of Dodge. It's so that I can get home to where I have the majority of my stuff. In that bag, I have 3 bottles of water. I have food rations for 36 hours. I have a map of the United States that breaks down into separate different areas that has all the roads on it, so I can see where I need to travel. Your GPS could be down.
Yep.
If you don't have GPS, you're going to have to look at a map.
Yep.
What else goes with a map? You better damn well have a compass so you know which way you're headed. Right? If you don't have a compass, you're not going to know which way to go. I have, Dom was talking about it this last time. I have a multi-tool in there.
Yep.
That way
That's
you
why
can.
I carry one every day.
Yeah.
Every single day, without fail, multi-tool.
Yep.
So
Multi-tool. I keep 2 knives. Yep. There you go. I have that same one.
it's a good one, man.
It's a good one.
Cheap. It's cheap
Yeah.
too.
It's the B Bang or I forget what. Or is that the Gerber one?
It's a Gerber one.
Oh,
one I
Gerber
got.
one.
Yeah, but they're all the same shit.
Yeah, I keep two knives. I keep a big one and I keep a small one.
Mhm.
I keep communication gear like we were talking about in there. I keep a life straw in there. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I keep a life straw in there. It's a small little thing. They're super cheap. I think those are like 15, $20, something like that.
Shit,
Um,
you can buy them at Academy for all my people in Texas or where if you got academies where you
yep.
live. I don't know where about Pennsylvania, but
It's basically a small water filter so that you can drink water directly. One person can drink water directly out of, maybe an unfiltered water source, a lake, a stream, a pond, whatever it may be. Um, as you can tell, I'm talking about me. I have that bag with me. It's only intended to help me.
serve
Um,
you.
when I get back to my house, I have a different water filtration system. I have a hanging water filtration system that is more advanced. So if I have to filter water, but and then I guess I'll say a little bit of it now. I also have extra ammo and magazines in that bag. We'll save the gun conversation here for a little bit, but I keep that stuff in that bag as well for the guns that I carry with me.
Mhm.
Now, those are all what I would call, Don, would you call them the mandatory things? Like those are things you just absolutely have to have.
Yeah, and I would actually add two things to that. I think we've wrapped up pretty much damn near everything that you could possibly want as a hey, this is your starting point. Two other things. A flashlight
Oh, sorry. I do have a flashlight in there. My bad.
and matches.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yep. I got both of those in there. Good
Yeah.
call. Good
Or
call.
a
A
lighter or
lighter or something.
something to start fire. I don't care if you gotta
Yep.
hit some flint or whatever the case is.
Yep. Little fire starters. You can get them for like $5 on Amazon.
Yep.
Yeah, those two things are absolutely critical. Now, there's other things that you can have with you in your
Of
vehicle
course.
that
Yep.
are niceties, right? Like for me, you and I were talking the other day about we Don and I have an abnormal amount of conversations about plate carriers. Um, I'm not wearing one today, but uh, I keep a concealed carrier vest, a soft armor vest in my vehicle under my back seat so that if something erupts around me, I can quickly go under the back seat, throw that thing on. It takes up a very small footprint. It's really tiny. It's not like these things. It's just a black, basically a black vest that has soft armor in it that'll stop up to 44 mag, I believe, level 3A, and I can throw that on. Don's also seen my truck. I have probably what some would call an abnormal number of firearms in my vehicle. Um, and I have a Ram, so I have the Ram boxes on the back. Inside my Ram boxes, I have my battle belt. I have my sidearm attachment for that. I have gloves. I have hearing protection in there. People don't think about hearing protection. People walk around carrying their guns around everywhere in their truck. Like, you're gonna blow your fucking ears out. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's a life or death situation in
of
the
course.
moment, yeah, like you're not gonna throw those on.
Yes.
You're gonna pull out and go straight to work or whatever you got.
But if you have preparation time,
But if you have preparation time and there's enough time to throw on a vest, throw some in ears in or whatever you got, some
could just be
walkers,
pluggies.
pluggies, whatever it is that you got, like yeah, you're probably gonna want that. I mean, I have a set of walkers. I keep them in my truck. All my vehicles that I've ever had, they're always in there, no matter what.
Yep.
My girl has them in her vehicle as well. Same thing. So,
Yep.
um,
And I
it's a
keep
nice thing to have.
I keep a toolkit in my RAM box. I
Yeah.
keep a this sounds really dumb, and well, it doesn't sound dumb, but it sounds like I'm crazy. But I keep a what I call my mini battering ram in there. It's actually a T-post hammer, but it doubles. It's solid steel, so it doubles as a battering ram. If I had to knock a door open, I could go grab this thing and boom, nail a door open. Uh,
Yep.
like I said, these are all the extra things that obviously I'm not saying are critical, but these are things that I carry around with me um, in my truck. The last thing that I carry in my truck with, I won't say the last thing, there's probably other things I got in there, but one of the last things is I carry a 5-gallon gas can in the back of my truck all the time. You never know what's going to happen. What if this massive incident that we're talking about happens when you are further away from your home than the gas you currently have in your vehicle? The chances are you're not going to be able to stop at the gas station and fill her up.
Mm-mm.
So I know that I can go, my truck on the highway gets around 20 miles a gallon. I know I can go about 100 extra miles with what I've got in the back of my truck.
And that's if your truck's even still working if an EMP hits. We don't even know. Like most people don't know. Like I mean, but outside of an EMP, like if things get chaotic, like you definitely want fucking gas. Like there's no if, ands, or buts about it because usually when chaotic things happen, shit gets cramped up and then things don't move for a while and then you're stuck in that same position. And if it's hot or if it's cold or whatever the case is, typically you're running your AC or you're running your heater or
Yep.
whatever the case might be. Trust me, it's always good to have a little bit of gas. This is something that I've been doing this year because I was really bad at it. I would be that person. You ever heard that Manny Fresh song back in the day? I know I'm showing my age here, but like I got a quarter tank of gas,
And
a
a
new
new E-Class.
class. Yeah, that was me. so
I
I
think we
mean,
both just dated ourselves right now. Ain't
so
got no job.
but I
I
still
stay
shine.
fly.
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
Um,
but
yeah,
yeah, so that's the one thing that I have definitely changed. It's like as soon as I get to half a tank of gas, I am finding a
fill
gas
her up.
station and filling it up
Yep, me too.
immediately.
Me too.
Immediately.
Me too. Thank God I did today too. There was like police activity, which is why it took me so long to get out of Manhattan today. And all they had, I didn't even talk to you about this, Don, but there were police on every bridge and tunnel coming in and out of New York City. I have no idea what was going on, but it obviously caused massive traffic delays during rush hour. So if they weren't doing something important, what the fuck? Um, but I had filled up before I got on the road. I could have easily run out of gas on a bridge in New York City. That doesn't sound fun.
If he had a
Um,
quarter tank of
yeah.
gas.
Um, so let's transition. We talked a little bit about vehicle and what you should have when you are away from home. Let's delve into what we started talking about last time, which is you are home. Do you stay or do you go?
Do you go now? Yeah. Uh, I'm
What
gonna
say
be
you?
honest.
What say you, Don Welch? What are you
Let's
doing? Are you staying or are you going?
Okay. So my situation might be a little
Sure.
bit different.
We'll talk
Might
about
be
different scenarios.
it might be a little bit different. So I'll preface the conversation like this. I'm probably staying at my house unless I see the opportunity that is safe for me to get out to the other location where I'd want to be.
Sure.
There's a better location than some of us have, better locations. We're not going to tell you where they're at, but some of us have better locations where we prefer to be for numerous amounts of reasons. The vast majority of you need to stay your asses at the house. And even me and John, more than likely, like we're probably gonna kick it right at our house too.
Depending on the
And
severity of our
depend
environment.
exactly, yeah.
Yep.
Because
So
if it's worse to travel, there is no reason to leave your home, and that's why you should have the vast majority of things. Well, if you have two places, you definitely want to be filled up at the other place, and maybe that's where you store a lot of stuff. But you want to have everything that we talked about at your house,
yep.
without a
And
doubt.
you have common belief among the people that believe what we believe is that you have about 24 hours to make your decision. Um,
Hmm.
because the rest of society is going to be stunned. So they are
Yes.
not going to know what to do. In 24 hours, people are going to start making those decisions for themselves. That's when you're going to see mass exodus from major cities, when you're going to see people start to do the bad things, the looting, the
Mhm.
stealing, the raping, the pillaging, all that kind of stuff. So you have 24 hours to make that decision. Even if you live in a big city and you don't have anywhere to go, you're better off staying where you're at, because you don't want to be wandering out somewhere with no supplies, no backup. Hell, say you were leaving New York City, if you're a law-abiding citizen in New York City, you don't have a firearm with you. So what
Yep.
what are you going to do? You're better off staying. Now, if you have someplace to go and you live in a major city, I would highly suggest you go there. And you go there
Fast.
fast. As soon as you get that feeling, those butterflies in your stomach, that little voice inside your brain says shit's going wrong, you go, because
Mhm.
you are now going to be far, far ahead of everyone else.
Yep.
Chances are, as long as your place is not too far from where you're at, you'll be there before you see the real collapse happen. you know
Mhm.
and just like I asked Don, that's me. I have secondary and tertiary plans for what I'm going to do. If it's not bad in my area, no, then I'm gonna probably stick it out, hunker down, barricade. I have a vast supply of stuff here that I can work with. Um, but I also am now the proud owner of uh, a large acreage in central Pennsylvania. So I'm able to go there. That's my secondary bug out location. And I have the ability to support myself there.
Mhm.
If you do not have the ability to support yourself, do not do it. But I can do that. That's only my secondary option, though. That's where I'm going to go. Now, that location happens to be halfway between where I live and where my family will be. My end goal is I will get to my family, because
Yep.
we as a family have a plan and structured setup. And I joked about it on on the last episode. My stepdad has 300 rolls of toilet paper. That's the kind of family that we are. We have those things. I think collectively we have more guns than probably the city of New York. uh, so I'm choosing to do that. But if you live in the suburbs, let's say you live, um, what's a good suburban city?
Mm.
Um, hey, let's just use a place where you and I know kind of well. Let's say you live in Chiefland, Florida. It's about at what, an hour and a half northwest of Orlando, right?
Mhm.
Not completely remote. They have a Walmart,
Yep.
but also not like
They're not
um,
in danger.
no, it's not a metropolis either, where you would see massive civil unrest. If you
Yep.
live in Chiefland, Florida, your best chances
Stay your ass at home.
probably stay there. You know,
Mhm.
if you live on the outskirts of a medium-sized city, maybe like a Richmond, or well, that's probably a bad example because your proximity to DC. That's not in Virginia. Um, Don is not happy with me. um, say Charlotte. You live on the outskirts of Charlotte. You're probably best off staying where you're at, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
100%.
but build your plan around that. Build your plan around, hey, my number one option is to stay put. That means that all the stuff that we were talking about, you keep there. You know,
Mhm.
don't have another stash of stuff at your parents' house that's 18 hours away.
And
not gonna do you any good.
and I'm just gonna say this: look, if you live in a city, and you are a capable human being, to be able to protect yourself, the one thing that I would suggest, especially if, even if you're not capable, I especially for women, look, get pepper spray if you're a woman. Make sure that you have some type of object to be able to defend yourself. It's probably going to be a lot tougher for a woman to be able to protect herself for sure, but you need to have something that gives you a fighting chance. And that's why we always say that's why Gun Owners America said, hey, Second Amendment rights is women rights, because it is at the end of the day. Like, um,
Oh yeah, you bought that hat, huh?
I did. I bought that hat. I bought that hat because I agree with it.
Yep.
As somebody who has a woman, um, and has a baby on the way and everything else, it's like, me personally, I think that these, my family, even my mom, everybody, they should have something to be able to protect themselves. Now, will they use it? I don't know. I hopefully they don't ever have to, but I'd rather them have it than not have it. So if you live in a big city where you can't purchase a gun, purchase everything that you possibly can that could give you a fighting chance. Whether it's a taser, pepper spray, a fucking baseball bat. I don't care if you got to wrap barbed wire across of it. Something that's going to give you a fighting chance.
Yep. I agree. Why don't we jump into that part of it then? Let's jump into the self protection because I think that's the last necessity piece before we talk about maybe some of those things that are niceties to
Mhm.
have.
Yeah.
Um, is how do you protect yourself? Obviously, if you are here and you're watching Don and I, you know that we are quote unquote gun people. Um, we believe in the Second Amendment, probably to a fuller extent than most people, and we back that up with all of the lovely things that sit around us. Um, if you are not a firearm owner, and you can be a firearm owner, like Don was just saying, some cities don't allow it. But if you have the ability to be a firearm owner, you should damn well be a firearm owner.
Yeah.
You should know how to use it. You should know how to use it well. Your family should know how to use them and use them well. Going back to what we talked about a few minutes ago, with you can't do this alone, you also can't protect yourself alone. At some point in time, if you're the father or you're the brother or whatever it is, you have to sleep and somebody
Mhm.
else needs to be watching your back. If your family doesn't know how to use your firearm and use it proficiently, you're not going to last very long. So, all those
Yep.
people that are like, oh, I don't want my kids to know about guns. No, you're taking the wrong approach.
Hmm.
You want to train
Facts.
them and train them well on firearms. You want
Yeah.
everybody in your group to be well trained. I'm not talking they know what a gun is and they know how to pull the trigger. I'm talking they are well trained on every aspect of using a firearm. Right, Don?
First and foremost, gun safety. You
Cunty.
should be you should be look, I'm gonna go back and say this. Look, if you are a man, okay, you know, and you don't have a gun and you have the ability to own a gun, like you are like you don't care about your family at the end of the day. You just don't. I don't see, and no, there's no other weird predicament in this world where you just don't care about your family. You're just an idiot, or you vote for Kamala Harris, which still makes you an idiot. So, or
Either way,
you're
you're an idiot.
either way, you're an idiot. So the point is, if you care about your family, you should care about your family's protection, and the best way to protect your family is to own a firearm, practice your Second Amendment, and train with that, and then make sure that you understand gun safety, and then project that onto your kids, making sure that they understand gun safety, and your wife or whoever else is around you, make sure that they understand gun safety. That is the most important thing when it comes to self protection. Look, my girl is not the biggest firearms person in the world. Like, me and John geek out over fucking optics. Okay, like we're weirdos. You know what I mean?
Screwdrivers for optics.
Bro, I was just at Bass Pro Shop. I'm like tweaking out. I'm like, oh yeah, this is an awesome tool set. To, yeah. It's like we're weird individuals when it comes to stuff. Uh, but it's because we've had it embedded into our brains that this is important and we care about these things. However, going back to my girl is very accurate shooter. If you break into my house and you try to risk coming into my house, and my girl is going to kill you, like point blank, period. If it's her life or your life, it's going to be your life. She knows enough, and she has the accuracy and the ability, and she has the knowledge of gun ownership, where she's taken the time out to be able to protect herself if need be. Now, does she want to do that? No. But if she has to, she fucking will. So
Yep.
that's where all of you should be. Even if you're scared of guns, get over it. Go get yourself comfortable enough with it to where if you have to protect yourself, that you can.
Yep. And when your children are old enough to
Hmm.
understand what a firearm is and what a firearm can do and to properly shoot one, you need to teach them.
Yeah.
I know we're probably going to catch some shit for me saying that, but if at 7 years old, your kid has the ability to understand and physically use something, you need to teach them. Proper education prevents disasters in the future, whether that disaster is a kid playing with a gun or that disaster is your kid not knowing how to use one and somebody breaks into the home, or you're in a survival situation like we're talking about now, and your whole family does not have that ability. You
We
are
all
asking for it.
I'll just put it like this: we always had guns in our house. The first gun that I probably ever shot, I was probably 6 or 7 years old, just like John said. I think that's probably when most people like, get to shoot their first 22 that come from the culture and background of, whether you're from the South or Middle America, you're not from a big city. This is very typical of people that are middle class families. I'll just put it like that. Um, and the one thing that I knew not to ever fucking do is to go touch a gun without asking my dad or my grandpa or
Hmm.
somebody if I could touch the gun, because I knew I had it ingrained in my head, if I touch that gun, I am going to get my ass kicked.
Yep.
And I understood that. I understood that if I point that gun, that I could kill somebody already, because it was ingrained in my brain so hard before I was ever even allowed to take that first shot. I grew up around my dad. My dad would go, my dad, my grandpa, all of his buddies, they would go on hunting trips, they'd practice target shooting, whatever the case might be. I got to be around those things. Obviously, at 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old, obviously I'm not shooting, but I'm learning these things at a very, very, very early age and being told what to do and what not to do before I even touch my very first gun.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in the same situation. My stepdad was a federal agent as I was growing up, and so he always carried a gun, and he'd come home and take his gun off and sit it on the counter. There was not a thought in my mind to ever touch that thing,
hell
ever
no.
touch it, because I knew what it meant. And just like you said, like when I was younger, I knew not to even touch it or do anything, and I wasn't shooting or anything like that. But I think it was probably when I turned maybe 10, 11, when I had the ability to actually lift a gun. Um, he and his partner, his agent partner, took me out to a gun range and said, "We're going to teach you how to shoot right now."
Yeah. And
And I
that's
have
a
it ingrained in me.
and that's a big huge thing, and I don't I okay, if you're a person that is not good around guns, you're scared of guns, let me tell you this. a boy, it's one of the biggest moments of a young boy's life. The first time he's given the responsibility, and he understands that you are giving him the responsibility to be able to put his finger on that trigger and shoot down the range. It is a massive moment for him in his life. It was a
Yep.
massive moment for me in my
Me
life.
too.
The first time I ever killed an animal, my family's old school. You shoot it, you rip into it, you get the blood smeared on your face, and now you're a warrior, and now you have to clean it and eat it and do everything else. It's just these things, are ingrained into my culture, but the amount of respect that I felt that I was given, I never ever wanted to disobey, or never not be able to have that earned respect ever again. So I made sure, my family made sure that I understood before I picked up that firearm. Now, like I said, and John said, the first time we went to go shoot, 10 or 11 years old, I'm sure that when somebody put that gun in his hand, they walked him through the
Hmm.
responsibilities of having it.
Yep.
And if you do that, like prime example, prime example, we were just talking about this with Angry Sarge. Angry Sarge will put a gun down in his house. His kid will never touch it.
Yep.
Why? Because he knows better. And if you teach your kids these things, then there's no scare. Like, you don't have to be scared. Okay? You don't have to be. Okay? If you are a good parent and you are teaching your kids the right things, there's no reason to be scared. Now, if you're a shithead parent, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I
Yeah,
just
we
don't.
you got bigger problems.
You got bigger problems. But yeah, I mean, it is very important, and that's something that we've lost. Tim Wall said this, and I don't remember if you remember him saying this. He goes, "Well, when I grew up, everybody had rifles and shotguns in the back of their trucks, but we just don't live in that time period anymore." Yeah, we don't live in that time period anymore because you guys have made every single person scared of it, and you guys have radicalized people
Hmm.
to where they do shoot up schools and they do crazy things because you've stuffed drugs down their fucking nose and their mouths their whole entire fucking lives,
Yep.
and you've never been a parent to these kids. That's the problem, because this should be part of our culture. You can go back and look at pictures in the 70s, the 60s, 70s, where they brought their fucking guns to school
Dude,
for gun safety classes.
we did in the late 80s when I was in elementary school. You were allowed during hunting season to bring your gun to school and put it in the principal's office until the end of the day, where you could pick it up again because you were going out deer hunting early in the morning with your dad.
Mm-hmm.
And your dad couldn't carry your gun around to his work all day or whatever it was. So you went into school with it.
Yep.
um, we have caused this problem. Um, Now, you and I did have this debate before, but let's keep this kind of on a surface level, um, and add your input here too. Don, is I think at a minimum, to protect you and your family in one of these situations that we've been talking about, you need to have a semi-automatic rifle and a semi-automatic handgun.
Facts.
We debated which ones we would take before, but you need to have both of those things.
And trust me, you need all 30 fucking rounds of a standard magazine. A standard magazine is 30 rounds, no matter what the Democrats try to tell you. It's always been a standard. That's always what it is. And look, semi automatic weapons for pistols, we can go all the way back to, I think it's 1916, whenever Browning, did their pistol, and it had 13 rounds in it. There's no such thing as a 10-round magazine to where that's a standard magazine. No, we've had double capacity magazines and pistols for a long time. Get yourself, the more ammo that you can squeeze in that pistol, the better.
Yep.
The more that you can put in a rifle, the better. Because
Don and I both our preferred handguns take 20 plus rounds.
Yeah, and and this is the crazy thing about this too. I feel way more comfortable with a pistol than I do a rifle. Uh, I am, I am a better than most people are with probably with a rifle. That your average person, there's no doubt about that. But I am far surpassed your average person with a pistol.
And you and I
Um,
are opposite there, right? You
yes,
know, I am, without sounding overconfident, I am far superior than the average person with a rifle.
yep.
I am above average when it comes to handguns.
Yeah, and I'm not. We're not saying that to be like arrogant pricks.
No.
I mean I shoot thousands and thousands of rounds on a pistol, and I shoot matches on a consistent basis, and you know I am way faster than probably I don't know, like 99% of handgun owners, probably maybe even more than that. So, but at the end of the day, the one thing that I want to go do is I know that that's quick access, so that's usually the thing that's going to be accessible to me at that moment. In most cases, that's why I wanted to be good at it. But at the end of the day, the one thing that I'm going to be trying to do is use this to get to this no
Yep.
matter what, because this has
Use
more
this to get to
capabilities.
this.
Yep,
Yep. You can.
this has more capabilities than this ever will.
Yep. When it comes to distance, accuracy, wieldability, all those things, power, round penetration, all of those things, your semi-automatic rifle is going to be better. Things that it's not better in, obviously, super close quarters, super quick access. If you're not already prepped with your rifle out, those things. Um,
Mm,
probably a little bit of accessibility with ammo,
sure.
all those sorts of things. But you need to have that semi-automatic rifle and semi-automatic pistol in your survival plans. To go along that with that, we're not really talking too much about ammo, but you need to have ammo for both of those weapons. Don
I
and
would
I,
say I would say this. I do want to say ammo because obviously the more ammo the better. But if you're, I think that every single person should have at least 500 rounds of rifle ammo, no matter what, at all times.
yeah,
You should always have 500 rounds of ammo at your house. It is not that hard to accumulate over time.
even just that
You're,
amount costs you about $250 on like the max side of a average, say 223 round.
yep, yeah. I think 500 rounds. I mean, if you can do 500 rounds of pistol, do it. But I think that that is a really, really good starting point. You don't have to be like some of these crazy people out
You mean
here.
like you and me? We have thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds. Don has so many rounds that his shelves that they're on are breaking. Um, no, and here's the thing, and I would actually just I would just double that with handgun ammo, whether it's 9 mil or whatever your chosen cartridge is. I suggest 9 mil for ease of accessibility. Um, you need to have that amount of handgun ammo as well. On top of
Mhm.
that, one of the things that you need to do, because we're talking about quote unquote prepping here, is you can't have all of that just in boxes in a on a shelf. You need to have preloaded magazines. You know, you need to have you, you need to have your rifle magazines ready to go.
Yeah.
You can see on my kit up here, I've got 3 magazines in that kit on the front that are already fully loaded. What you can't see off screen is a rack of AR magazines that are fully loaded. I have multiple magazines for P320s, which is my gun of choice.
Go to.
You know,
Yeah.
they're all
And
loaded.
that's the thing too. Like you should definitely be accumulating as many mags. There's no such thing as I have enough mags. That doesn't exist. Uh, you should have as many mags as you can possibly get, and you should have them filled already.
Ready
Already
to go. Because the
ready to
last
go.
thing you want is something happens and you don't have any more ammo, and yeah, you're sitting there trying to
Yeah, yeah,
pull it in.
it's not going to be a good look for you.
No, even like we were talking earlier about in the vehicle, I have 3 extra magazines for my AR pistol that I have in the truck, and I have 4 extra magazines for my concealed carry gun that I carry with me. I have one in the gun, one in the holster as an extra. I have one the wing holster, and then I have 2 extra magazines for that gun in my get home bag.
Yep.
So do the math on
And
that. That's 100 and something rounds just to get home.
pro tip for all of you people that live in hot weather: do not, I repeat, do not leave plastic mags in your car, because when you go to load that magazine, that round is not coming out and it's not going to fit, and you are going to have issues. I highly suggest, if you keep magazines in your car, which I suggest that you do keep magazines in your car. I Right now I have three AR magazines in my car. Every time I come from the house, I remove my AR pistol that I have and I bring it into the house. I don't leave guns in my car at all at night. That is a bad look, super bad look. The AR magazines that I have are hidden, but they're all metal.
Turret
Why?
mags.
Yep, that's exactly what they are, because I live in hot fucking weather 9, 10 months out of the fucking year.
I'm good here.
Yeah, yeah, you're good.
I'm good.
But I just wanted to give that pro tip because I
Absolutely.
have the reason why I'm saying this for 2 or 3 weeks ago, me and my buddy would go to the range. He always keeps all his shit in his bag in his car, goes to pull it out, boop, goes to load one. Nope, not loading, not loading. Goes to grab another one. Boop. Doesn't load, doesn't load, doesn't load. And the magazine had swelled up like a fucking balloon and it was not functioning properly.
Yep.
And then I grabbed one of my magazines. I thought, let's see if it's your magazines, or let's see if it's your gun. Throw mine in, whoop, racked around, boom, shot one out, no problem. So just giving you guys a little pro tip on that.
Um, Another thing that to another couple, just kind of what you should do on the firearm side of things before we move on. Um, we Don and I are big fans of optics. He was joking earlier about us having weird conversations about optics. We have optics on most of our guns. You also need to not only be proficient shooting firearms with optics on them, you need to be proficient with shooting guns without optics on them.
Irons. Yeah.
Using iron sights. Don and I joke we are now not as good anymore with iron sights as we are with optics because we shoot so much with optics. However, I can still hit my target uh, with iron sights. I'm just not quite as accurate as I am with a red dot
Yeah, I
or
mean,
with a scope.
I can still hit targets out to 25 yards with, no problem A zones with, it's just not at the speed.
Yep.
It's, and my group's a little bit wider, but but here's the thing though. I always, once every couple of weeks when I'm out at the range, I turn my red dot off and I use my backup iron sights just to like try to remember, like, hey, this is how you do this. Because the one thing about guns is it is a diminishing talent that a human being has. It is diminishing, meaning you might be great today. You take a week off, you're not going to be as great as you were today.
Yep.
That's just facts. And that's even for me and John. If I take a couple weeks off from shooting and I go to shoot, my groups are opening up. I'm not as quick. My reloads aren't as fast. That's just how it goes. I suggest, you know, whatever you have, running it. And if you have backup, I mean, obviously you should have backup iron sights. Run those backup iron sights every single time you go to the range. My stuff's a little bit different. I shoot matches. I'm not shooting iron sights in matches. So when I go to the range on my free time, that's what I try to do.
Yep. I agree. I couldn't agree more there. I'm actually probably going to have a little bit of a rough time filming some videos for 2A Patriot this weekend because I have not shot in almost 60 days, 45 days, sorry, which is probably the longest I've gone in the last like 5 years without shooting. So it's going to be a little difficult for me. With firearms, if you guys have specific questions, if you are a Liberty Goon watcher and you are looking for some recommendations with firearms on both the budget side and on the like, hey, I've got money, I can buy whatever you recommend, ask it down in the comments, shoot us a DM or whatever on Instagram. We'd be happy to guide you in the right direction. Don and I have the conversation on both ends of those spectrums all the time. We talked for 20 minutes the other night about the Springfield XD9, the Mod 3 that just came out, because it's a $289 gun that
That's hard
we
to beat.
that we think is actually a not bad firearm, you know.
It's a good
Um,
gun.
we also have conversations about 5, 6, 7 to $10,000 guns all the time. Also, why Don said we're weird, because we have those conversations. But we're a wealth of information because this is what we do, and this is what we love, and we'd be happy to help any of you out.
Yeah.
Let's shift over to the niceties, Don. What is one of those things that we didn't include on the must-haves, but is something nice to have as a prep, as a survival plan?
Mm, I would say some form of a, break down small grill to where you could do things like boil water, cook on. I highly suggest for all of you people too, getting as much rice as possible. It's a ton of carbohydrates. It packs nutrients for your body to store. But just things like that, I think those are big important things that are, yeah, they're not, you don't have to have them. We understand you don't have to have them, but they are super fucking nice to have.
It
So
definitely expands your ability to prepare your meals and um, not be just like eating cold, wet rice and,
mhm.
cold canned chicken or whatever it is that you have. One of those little camp stoves. I suggest having both your non-fueled and your fueled. You can have the ones that run on kerosene or propane, natural gas, and you can also get the little foldable ones that you can just put some wood underneath of it and cook your food.
Use that
Uh,
lighter we told you to
yeah,
buy.
I think that's an excellent nicety to have. My first nicety that I would say is an alternative form of power. We talked a little bit about gas for generators earlier.
Yep.
I think a generator is definitely a nice thing to have. However, it does have its downfalls, because if you run out of gas, then your generator is pretty much fucking useless. But
And
having a generator, I think, is a good addition to your preparations. I highly recommend getting one that is dual fuel, that runs on both propane and gasoline. So you have the option depending on what you have available. Also, get one that has a longer runtime. Champion Generators right now makes some generators that will run up to 32 hours on propane, on one canister of propane. Um, that's a that's a long time.
yep.
That's a long time. That's more than 2 days on one canister of propane. To go along with that, and something that's more sustainable, is having a solar generator with a solar panel. I'm not talking about, of course, the biggest nicety to have on your home is a complete solar setup, right? I mean, that's the ultimate setup. I have a portable solar generator. It has a 3,000 watt inverter on it, and it has I think it's 1,500 kilowatt hour battery in it. And it comes with a 100-watt solar panel. That thing will charge up in 1 day cycle, and I can run some of my standard appliances that I would need to run off of it. Whether I want to run a little heater for a period of time, if I want to plug in a stove, charge my phone, charge my radio, any of those things I can do. I keep it
Yep.
fully charged all the time. So in the event of an emergency, I don't need to plug in my solar panel just to get my initial charge. It's already 100% charged right now. Those things, once again, you can go on the cheap end or you can go on the expensive end. I'm going to be doing a review of mine soon. Mine is from a company called All Powers. Transparency, they did send it to me, which is nice doing what I do. I get a lot of this stuff without having to pay for it. But I did get mine sent to me. But I think that one on the low end, I think it's probably about $600. I think is what it retails for. You can Bluetti is another good brand name. Anchor makes really good ones. Jackery, they make good ones. Who am I missing here, Don? Um,
I can't even think now.
yeah, there's a bunch of brands. Search solar generator. EcoFlow is another big one. Those things are amazing to have, and you can get them all the way from 300 watt hours all the way up to like 8,000 kilowatt hours.
Yeah, and they come in a range of prices. So if you live in a city, obviously, you're probably not gonna, roll in some big ass generator into your apartment. So,
Yeah, but you can get a setup or you can build your own setup. There's plenty of videos on YouTube here of how to make your own solar setup using lithium ion batteries hooked up to a converter with a solar charger with solar panels, and you can do it for actually cheaper. If you want to put in the work, you can do it cheaper than you can like buying the solar generator. For a couple $100, you can really set yourself up with a really nice system. So that would be my first kind of nicety, would be an alternative power generator.
yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I wasn't really thinking on those lines of like the first nicety, but uh like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer for sure. Yeah, I mean, especially we live in like we talked about this last time. We live in the Western world. You idiots that think that you're going to go run into the woods and survive. It's like you can't survive without AC. How the fuck are you going to be able to survive out in the woods getting ate up by mosquitoes and bugs? Like it's so I mean, yeah, the I agree with John on that. That's probably the best thing that you can have as a luxury you know item in case shit hits the fan.
Yep. Um, what else you got? What's another one of those things that you like? You're like, I know, you don't have to have it, but it's really good to have.
Uh, I'm trying to think of something that would be. I mean, obviously, any type of electronical component. I mean, you're going to want extra batteries, all that stuff. So you kind of already wrap that up because if you have that amazing generator, or you have your whatever the case it is. I mean, anything that can be able to charge something up is probably the best luxury item that I can actually think of, and I think you kind of killed it. So it's like there's not really
You're like,
much.
damn it.
Yeah, I'm
You kind
like,
of
dang, there's not really anything else I could say because it kind of wraps up anything that I was going to add to that. Um,
kind of a side one on the power generator thing is, I forgot one of the things I also have in my get home bag is, the like the portable battery packs. I have one that has a solar panel on top of it. So
I
when
actually
it
have one of those too.
yeah, you just
Shit, I
throw
should have
that
said
out
that.
there, and yeah,
Yeah,
super easy, super cheap too, 40-50 bucks. I think those things are.
I think it's somewhere stuffed in one of these boxes. It has not seen the sun, but I got it. So I'm not
uh
not as prepared as John over there, but
there's all kinds of other things, guys. Not to give myself too many shout outs here, but you can watch 2A Patriot Ranch, and I've got a ton of other stuff that we do. We got some bag reviews coming up, like a really get out of Dodge pack from Tasmanian Tiger, that has all the compartments, and you could basically carry your 10 days worth of stuff on your back, medical kits. I've done a mass casualty kit. If you happen to be in the epicenter of something, you can grab that mass casualty kit and start performing first aid.
I
Um,
will say one thing that we didn't touch on, and that's and I'm going to do this really really fast. It's actually clothing.
yes.
If it's cold outside, or if it's hot outside, no matter what it is, you should always have the right items. And if you never know what's going to happen in life, you never know if you're going to have to travel somewhere. This might be a bad spot, but you find a way to get out, and it's going to be cold or it's going to be hot or whatever the case is. Have those items. Solid pair of boots, no matter what. You should always have a solid pair of boots. I would say that more than tennis shoes by far. They're rugged, they last longer. They'll get you through any weather. Make sure that they're breathable. But I would say that that's a big thing. A rain jacket, some way to keep yourself warm if you do have to be outside and you are caught out all alone. They make cheap stuff. Raincoats are cheap, but they also have like the aluminum, foil shit where if it just touches the sun, like it'll heat up. You can get your
Yep.
body
Those
warm.
thermal blankets.
Those thermal blankets. So, um,
One of the things that's really good with what you're saying there, Don, and we should have touched on this earlier. So, um, Don and I both have an affinity for all things camo. As you can see behind me, even my kit is in multicam, and I have a ton of multicam clothes. I can tell you if I'm getting out of Dodge, at least initially, I'm not going to be wearing that stuff. You want to
hell
go
no.
into what
Gray
we
man.
like to call gray man.
Mhm.
You want to blend in. You don't want people to know what you're doing. If I walk outside when this whole thing's going off, I'm making that decision within the first 24 hours, and I walk outside with my camo Born Primitive tactical pants, my operator shirt,
And
my
his Liberty Goons t-shirt.
t-shirt, and my multicam kit, and my tactical helmet on with my nod sticking up, um, and my military backpack. Uh,
He's a target at that
I'm a
point.
target. People are damn well gonna know what I'm doing. Now, what you want to do is you want to make yourself blend in as much as possible so that people wouldn't even give you a passing eye. You look like anybody else. You want your bag to be, black or gray or some non-distinguishing color. You don't want it to have Molly all over it or a tactical look to it. Um, wear, you know, if you're in colder climates or whatever, blue jeans and a regular black jacket. No, no camo stuff. You don't want to have your rifle slung over your shoulder. Um, you want to make sure you're leaving a small footprint in people's minds. Now,
Mhm.
there is a time for all the other stuff, which is
Facts.
why I have it. Um, when I am ready to say, this is me and I'm here, uh, then I'm going to switch to my more tactical gear. But I can tell you what, if that was in a city, I probably wouldn't. I have plate
No,
carriers that aren't that color. I'm going to switch to stuff if I'm bugging in a city. I'm not. Why would I wear camo? It makes no sense. Um,
you're going to want to blend into whatever your surroundings are. So if you do wear a plate carrier, maybe go as far as, hey, and yes, it's not going to save you from an AR, but it'll save you from most handgun rounds, which probably what's going to happen in a city anyways. They make all types of armor that you can literally throw underneath a jacket. Nobody's ever going to notice it.
like I was talking about, the one I keep in my truck is my concealed carrier. When I
Correct.
put my shirt, uh, I can't wear like a normal sized shirt, but if I throw a size up, like I wear a large, if I throw an extra large over that, you can't even tell I have that thing on.
Yeah.
So I'd be walking down the street, you would have no idea that I have body armor on. Um, you want to make yourself blend in wherever your surroundings are. Now, hey, if I'm bugging out to my property, You damn well right. I'm gonna be multicam head to toe. Bruno over at Born Primitive would be proud of me. You know, because I'm gonna be able to blend in with my surroundings.
He's a poster child for Born Primitive.
Right. Um, guys, this is by no means meant to be the end all be all
Of
of
course.
how to survive. But when I was talking to Don earlier, two reasons I felt like having this conversation. One was because we did have a little bit of a fun with it 2 episodes ago, and it kind of got my juices flowing. And then Don and I, the past 2 days, have actually kind of been talking about some of this stuff. So, um, but also because I think it's very important given our
Where
current
we are.
times. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every
I mean,
episode, you and I are talking about something that could boil over into quite a disaster.
think about this. Look at the 2020 elections. You had all types of chaos in all of the cities leading up to the election. Chop City, like that shit was crazy. You had massive riots all over the United States in
Hmm.
every single major city. Fuck, even here where I live, there was riots that were going on. These are all important things for you to have. Don't think that because you live in your little bubble, some shit couldn't happen to you. Especially in times like today where things are very tensions are very high on both sides. I'll
Hmm.
just put it like that. If Democrats tomorrow could kill every single Republican, they would. Uh, Republicans, not so much, but if you fuck with Republicans, or you fuck with conservatives, or you fuck with libertarians, or you fuck with their kids, you're going to have a problem. And if you break into people's businesses or things that they've worked their whole lives for, um, shit happens. So, and if you're amongst that shit happening, walking down the street for whatever reason may be, you are very likely to be drug into that situation, whether you want to be or not.
Yep.
So,
And you better have that Jason Aldean try that in a small town mentality going on. Um,
mhm.
and this goes for everything. Don was just talking about the political situation here. But we have some massive conflicts going on across the world right now, um, that could lead to some significant events on this globe. And you know, uh, I'm I'm within fallout range of New York City and Philadelphia.
Yeah, and
Um,
let's not forget 9/11. We just had 20 million illegal immigrants come to the United States, and we don't know a single fucking thing about them. They've already caught I think it's over 1,000 people on the terrorist watch list already. Think about who they haven't caught.
yep.
So whether you're a left ring radical that fucking loves Hamas and chokes on their dick, they don't give a shit about you at the end of the day, whether you think so or not.
Nope.
If they decide to bomb your building that you're in, you ain't getting saved, buddy. Like, you know, shit can happen anywhere. And if the sad part about it is that the population doesn't remember because we have this new generation of people, this new generation of kids. We have this new generation of people in politics, and they're idiots and they don't know the past. They don't know the history of America and what's happened in this past century, let alone the past 15 years, because half of them were like 8 years old when shit was going on. So, look, it's it, for one of you out there, one of these situations is actually more likely to happen than to not. For the
Yes.
rest of you, it's probably not going to happen. Maybe, hopefully, praying to God. But for one of you listening, your chances are more likely than everybody else's. So
It's gonna
pretend
happen.
So pretend every last one of you like the potential's there to actually happen.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I mean, Don and I are talking about this. We hope and pray that we do all the things that we do and we prepare the way we prepare to never have to use it. I was
Facts.
joking with my mom the other night on the phone, and I was like, "Mom, I'm gonna be really pissed if I did all this and I never get to use it." But I say it jokingly because honestly, I don't want to have to deal with that.
No, of course.
Running for your life all the time, that sounds not fun. Um, as glorified as we make some of these things sound as like, oh, you could do this and you could do that, none of it's fun. And I can promise you, neither Don nor I will be having quote unquote fun in these situations.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, think about this. If any of you guys get a chance to talk to a sniper, ask them how fun their job is. Because it is miserable. All
mhm.
right. And that's the only reason why I'm bringing up sniper is because I feel like that's probably like would you say that's probably the most glorified, thing when people think
Yeah.
about guns is probably a sniper, right?
Yep.
Or maybe CQB. I don't know now.
Yeah.
Well, things might have changed, but look, just dude, being a sniper, sitting in the same place for 12, 14, 15 hours and having to piss and shit yourself and you can't move or you're going to get caught, that sucks. Having to run, and most of you are out of shape, even including me and John. Like me and John don't want to run. I don't want to run fucking an hour, let alone fucking 6 to 10 hours,
No.
or run for days or for weeks or for months or for years. I mean, do I have the capability of being able to do it? Yeah, but I sure as fuck am not going to like it.
No. I don't want to have to try to fight for my food every day.
No, it's
I don't
miserable.
I don't want to worry about where my friends and family are at and if they're protected. Um, I don't want to have to protect all of you. You know, like I can guarantee you, I'm not going to have the ability to get away if I see other people in danger. I'm not going to
Mm,
just turn and run and let other people die. You know, I'm going to try to protect them. I don't want to have to put my life on the line for everyone. I will, but I don't want to. It doesn't sound fun to me.
no,
It doesn't sound
no,
fun getting shot at because somebody else wasn't prepared. That sounds not fun at all. Um, but we will.
yeah.
Anyway, guys. You know what? As our good friend Jared over at Guns and Gadgets says, you need to carry a gun to protect you and your family. He ends every single one of his YouTube videos like that, and it's the truth. It's the truth. So anyway, that was episode 24.
Oh yeah.
That's Don over there. I'm John. We're the Liberty Goons, and we are
Ah.